Can Nathan McSweeney make it a summer to remember? Australia has always been a happy hunting ground for Virat Kohli. Can he get back to his Test best? And when you try your best, but you don't succeed, one-day demolition. Is Cricket Australia stuck in reverse? Let's go around the wicket. Hello and welcome to another episode of Around the Wicket. Michael Clarke to join us shortly as well. But Callum Ferguson, Aaron Finch are in studio. Ferg, great to have you back for season 2.
I'm excited. I watched the episode last week. It was a beauty. Looking forward to getting involved.
Do you know who else is excited? Nathan McSweeney. He is set to open for the tests up against India for Australia. A big job ahead. The good news is he's got plenty of time to get his head around it. The bad news is that there's plenty of time for people like us to put our opinions forward. Have they got it right, Finchy?
Yeah, I think they have. He's a good young player. He's only 25. So I think it's about bridging that gap between the next generation as well. And the last thing you want is all the gun test players that we've had for so long to all drop off at the same time. So for me, I think it's about the technique that he's got, the temperament, his leadership with South Australia as well. So very good selection. First
class average of 38.16, 600s in first class cricket. Ed Cowan, the former test opener, has come out and said it's a guess though, going by recent form and the fact that he hasn't opened the cricket. What did you make of those comments, Ferg?
Look, I'm not sure about them. I don't think you ever 100% know how a player's going to go when they get selected. And I think it's a really good guess because of the mountain of work that he's put in over the last 2 years at the crease. He's batted beautifully. It was on full display during this A series as well, looking assured at the crease, playing late, balanced. I loved everything that I saw from Nathan McSweeney.
All selection is a guess. Like, it is literally just a guess.
Yeah.
You're guessing that I'm going to be better than you or that person is better than that person. It's just a guess. Strange comments.
Do you feel a little bit for Marcus Harris?
Absolutely. I think couldn't have done a huge amount more. He's probably been the best opener across probably the last 5 years in domestic cricket in Australia. It's just one of those things. He's had an opportunity at test level a couple of times and probably hasn't taken it as well as what he would have liked. So, yeah, I really feel for him because he is absolutely stiff.
We heard from Marcus Harris last week saying he's in a better position mentally than ever before. That also extends to Nathan McSweeney, as we say. What would your advice be in these days leading up when there's so much noise around you to compartmentalise?
No, you're 100% right. There's a lot of noise, and I still look back at advice that Mike Hussey gave me, and that's to try and get as organised as you can early in the week. Make sure your family and your friends are all organised, and then to run in the last few days into the test match, you can have a clear head, get focused on the game. So I think he's well placed. He's got a fantastic support network around him, both from Queensland and South Australia and within his family who are very close. So it's fantastic.
Would you be reading the news and watching the news?
No, there's nothing good can come from reading the news in that scenario. Like, I mean, as a player, you know when you're playing well, you know when you're playing poorly. So you don't need to read the news. You don't need to read social media to listen to how people think that you're playing. You know what it's like. And my advice to him is just enjoy the build-up towards such a huge test summer. I think it's a pinnacle in Australian cricket now.
And you would know because you played in this series as a test opener alongside Marcus Harris. It was a big moment. I don't think
anyone can believe that still.
Oh, we love you, Finchy.
We do.
Tell us a little bit about Nathan McSweeney, the bloke, though. You're a South Australian yourself. You've had a little bit to do with him.
Yeah, look, and he's also a member of my golf club at Kooyonga in Adelaide, and I've played a little bit of golf with him, spent some time with him. But the most, I think, impressive thing is the response that you get from his teammates at South Australia when you ask about him and how excited you are. And they light up when they talk about him being selected for this test side. First of all, the A side, but now into the test side. They're so excited for him. And it's a big part of the reason why he was made captain this year at South Australia, taking over from Travis Head, is because he's so invested in the team. And not only that, he's so dedicated and sets a great example for everyone, which leaves him in good stead going into a test series, I think.
It's an exciting summer ahead. Plenty
it
more
really
still to discuss after this short break. We need to talk about India and also Pat Cummins. He was at Coldplay instead of playing in the deciding ODI. Michael Clarke coming right up. Michael Clarke is with us once more on Around the Wicket. Pup, great to have your company each Wednesday on Around the Wicket this summer.
Hey guys.
We were just discussing Nathan McSweeney. You like what you see when it comes to his technique?
Yeah, look, thanks for having me firstly. I watched the Australia A game the other day and just tried to get my head out of where someone was batting. So I wanted to watch the top 4 batters. Obviously, 3 specialist openers as such in Harris, Bancroft and Constas. And then I just wanted to have a look at McSweeney's technique and not care too much whether he bats 3, 4, opens, just to see what that was like. And I've got to be honest, I know he didn't make that many runs, nor did many of them, to be honest, but I think he looks pretty good. I think his setup is very good. I think he stays quite side on to the ball. And again, particularly against the moving ball, a brand new ball, I think he leaves well on the front foot. I think his foundation is really set for that front foot defence, and you can tell he's trained that and drilled that a lot. I think the only probably tiny little deficiency technically where he could come unstuck against the brand new ball, it's like a little bit of a back foot push. He just squares up a little bit and just hangs that bat out a little bit outside the off stump. But tell me a batter that doesn't have, a technical flaw or a deficiency, and particularly against the brand new ball, you probably see it more often. But honestly, I think he's got the foundation to open the batting, to bat 3, to bat 4. So I can understand the selectors not seeing him as a specialist number 3 and thinking, he's good enough to open the batting. I know his statistics probably don't look as flash as a lot of people would like to justify his selection, but technically, I think he's sound enough, that's for sure.
Yeah, I agree with Putt about his technique, and he's talking about the back foot punch there. That's the thing that's brought Marnus undone a little bit more over the last 12 or 18 months. He started to feel for that ball outside off stump, where in the past he's been so consistent at leaving the ball, waiting for the bowlers to come to him. But once you feel under pressure, you want to hit the ball, you want to get bat on ball, and he started nicking it. So at the top of the order, that is definitely something to watch. But I mean, his heart rate will be through the roof when he walks out the mark centre as well. So that'll be an interesting first couple of overs for him.
Let's move on to India, because there's been a huge conversation about the form of captain Rohit Sharma. We're not sure if he'll be available for the first test, and former captain Virat Kohli. Pup, do you see a world in which this could be the last test series for those 2 greats of the game?
Whoa, geez, big call. Look, I think they're probably coming into Australian conditions where they both like playing. I think Rohit Sharma probably plays the fast bowling as good as anyone in that team. Certainly the short pitch bowling. I think he'll take the Aussies on with that hook shot, and he plays it up over third man. So, and Virat's class. Virat's record here is phenomenal. I think he scored 600s in 13 tests, averages over 50 in Australian conditions. So, yeah, my brain's not there. My brain's not there coming here and they're going to fail. I think those 2 will come here and be tough to get out. I think the Australian bowlers need to find a way to dismiss them both early in their innings as often as they possibly can. If it is their last time here, I think that will be retirement. I don't think that'll be dropped. But in the same breath, look, I think every cricketer knows if you're not making runs or taking wickets, there's going to be conversation around that type of thing. But captain of your team, I think you get a little bit of slack for that. And being the world's best batsman for the last 10 years, maybe longer, across all 3 formats, I think Virat might get a bit more slack than somebody else as well. So I hope for the series' sake, I hope for Test cricket's sake, they both come out and get back to their best form and score plenty of runs for India, but for Test cricket as well. I think we want to see that the Australian attack, which is a good one, take on these, the top order batting of India, which is pretty strong as well.
Geez, they're both great to watch, aren't they? And they both play so well off both the front and back foot. So if they can play well, it'll take India a long way to getting into the contest and perhaps even challenging Australia throughout the series. Because from a point of view of aesthetics, it's as good as it gets when you're talking about Rohit Sharma and certainly Virat Kohli. So I'm really hopeful personally. I don't know how you feel about it, Finchy, but I think they will set up the series for India if they can get into it. Yeah,
I'd love to see them back to their very best. But the only thing that would dictate, in my mind, whether they play another series here in Australia is their own desire. They're 2 people who have achieved everything in the game. They've both got, Rohit's about to have his 2nd child, Virat's got a couple of kids. Your life just changes a little bit more. So your priorities change. 100% of your focus isn't on cricket anymore. There's more to life than walking out and facing a new ball in a test match. So that'd be the only thing in my mind that would stop that.
And you did get the salute from Rohit Sharma's wife on your comments on this show last week for saying that absolutely it's fine to miss that first test. And
well, there's more to life than a game of cricket sometimes. And Pup, you've been retired the longest out of all of us. You understand the further you get away from the game, the more you can't believe how consumed you were with the game when you played.
Yeah, and I think we said it on our last show. Different era, different generation. Like, yeah, there were times gone by where players wouldn't leave a test tour for the birth of their child, but it's unheard of now. Like, that's not just cricket. I think that's society. I think that's all sport. I think, that's just where we are in life now. So, I don't think anyone can be critical of Rohit Sharma doing that. And again, I think Pat Cummins will probably have the same. He'll be in the same position throughout this Test series as well. And I don't think there'd be too many people, if anyone, that would disrespect any father to go and be there for the birth of their child.
Pup, on just pure cricket, is there any world where Rohit Sharma's coming off averaging only 15, much like Virat Kohli up against New Zealand, clean sweep in India? Is there any world that you see that Rohit Sharma doesn't get back into the Test team as a player when he's available if other people perform in his absence?
No way. No way. He, like I say, I think he's as well equipped as anyone to bat in Australian conditions. He plays fast bowling well. He plays the short ball well. He's opened the batting in all formats for a long period of time. Captaincy-wise, I think tactically he's very good. He's very aggressive. He looks to take the game forward, tries to win. I think the day he's available, he's selected.
I think, as you said earlier as well, we all just want Virat Kohli and Rohit Sharma to be at their very best, even as Australians, because watching them at their very best is as good as cricket really gets, let's be honest. Just on the getting towards the end of your career, how tough is it and how quickly can it come? And even if it's not your body and technical, but also the mental side of things, that you start second guessing yourself because age almost comes into it?
Yeah, I certainly started doing that. I started going and having my eyes tested every couple of weeks because I was wondering whether I was as sharp as I used to be or was there an issue going on, and you start to doubt yourself and you think, is there enough time to get out of this? And like Pup said before, your priorities change a little bit in life, and it comes pretty quick, I think. For me, it certainly did, and that was on the back of some knee surgery and probably not getting myself into the best nick to play consistently either. I was always worried about rehab and probably didn't do enough of that towards the end it starts to add up pretty quick. And
you're not being facetious about that. You actually went and got your eyes tested regularly.
I played an IPL game with the wrong contact lenses in. I'd never worn them before. I went and played a game in Dubai. I was struggling with my eyes to see the ball at night. I couldn't see the seam. So I said to the physio, can you organise for me to go and get an eye test? Yep, no worries. They sent some contacts. I tried them on. They didn't fit properly, and they said, well, just try them anyway. Like, they'll take a bit of getting used to. Got my eyes tested a week later, and they were totally the wrong contacts.
How did you go?
That is crazy.
I got half a dozen, I reckon. I got over 10 actually, and took a catch. Yep.
That's an extraordinary story.
It reminds me of Sean Marsh doing a sponsorship one day and realising that his eyes actually did need some.
And then he got 180 years ago, and he never wore the contacts again.
Amazing stories.
We love it. Moving from the players on to the coach, Gambhir, who is still relatively new in this role for India. He's getting a bit prickly early, which is GG's personality. How do you think he's going to go under the heat of this Border Gavaskar trophy, Pup?
I think at the moment he's obviously feeling the loss of the home series back in India, like I'm sure all the players will be. He's the head coach, so he's got to face the media before they flew out to Australia, and I think he's just going loud and proud to support his team. I don't think there'd be a coach that would do it any differently in regards to, you want your team at the start of the tour to feel as confident as they can, and the easiest way, I guess, to get that is have your captain or your coach come out loud and proud and support any player that's under pressure from the media. Look, he was a tough player. It was tough to play against, a really good competitor, and fought for all of his success. I'm sure he'll be no different as a coach. And he knows, he's looking around that change room knowing he's got a lot of senior players that have had success all around the world. So, yeah, look, I think you know what you're going to get with Gambhir. He was the same as a player, so I'm not surprised by his comments. And if anything, that's what I'd want from my coach. I'd want him to come out and support me loud and proud and let the media and the world know that I'm not under pressure. Even if I was, I'd love for my coach to have my back and come out and support me like that.
How do you think he's going to go throughout the summer, Ferg?
I think some of the media conferences are going to be a little bit feisty from time to time. He is a feisty character, as Mick just said, but I actually agree with Mick. He might have even been prepared to, and ready to go, looking for an opportunity for someone to jump back at in defence of his team, to really spike some performance out of his team coming off the back of what was a brutal loss to New Zealand.
As a journalist watching the game for a long time, it reminds me a little bit of Justin Langer when you were playing under him. There seems to be a bit of feistiness to him and ready to go at any sort of moment. Do you see some similarities there? And would it be interesting if Jaya was still the coach of Australia this series?
Oh, when the coaches don't walk out and mark centre or take the new ball at the top of the mark. So I don't think it really matters. And like Pup said, the amount of confidence that you can get just from the actions of your coach and just saying, you know what, no, we're here. We're not caring about what Australian former players are saying. We're focused on what we're here to do. And that's a really big statement, I think, to go head down all the way into this tour from day one. And Ravi Shastri talks about the first time that they landed here and they decided to get together and they said, we're not going to cop anything. We're fighting fire with fire. And that's certainly Gautam Gambhir's as well and truly in his nature.
I think what we're all saying here is from the very first ball to the last ball, into the press conferences, into the post-match analysis, this is going to be a must-watch summer right from go to woe. Just before we let you go, Pup, Pat Cummins was told not required rest, get ready to captain Australia for the Test series. Missed that deciding ODI up against Pakistan.
Yeah.
Then there was a post on social media that he attended a Coldplay concert at the same time. Question to you, if it was you that did that, how do you think it would have been received in the media?
I think you're asking me a question, Nez, you already know the answer to. I think I would have been absolutely smashed, but look, this is the thing. I think I've said over the last few days how I felt about the one-day players missing that last one day, the Test players, missing that last one day. I would have liked to have seen them play that game. There was 11 days from the last one day to the first Test, so I thought they could have all played. If anything, if Cricket Australia wanted to rest the fast bowlers, then I understand that, but I'm pretty sure the batters that were left out probably would have played. And the fact that, Alex Carey played a one-day game for his state on the Tuesday, 2 days after that, and he's still involved in the first Test, really confused me. You get a day off. You can do whatever you want. So from my perspective, I've got absolutely no beef with Paddy going to, whether it's Coldplay, a restaurant, whatever he wants to do. He's with his wife and you get the day off. But from recent history and my time as Australian captain, I know how the fans see it and how the media sees it. And probably because we lost the game and lost the series, you just allow a door for the article to be written and for people to criticise you. So I'm sure Paddy is aware of that. But if you're asking me, I've got no problem with it.
I think the concerns with the fixturing, Nez, personally, I think having that last potential decider in Perth left the door open for this sort of, not calamity, but certainly controversy. If you have that third and deciding game on the eastern seaboard, we may not have run into this issue. The first one day really could have been in Perth, and that would have solved a lot of issues in my eyes.
Just quickly, I know you love Coldplay. Would you have done the same thing as Aussie captain?
I was never good enough to have any days off. I wasn't.
You and me both.
I had to fight for every game that I played, even when I was captain. And there's probably a few that I shouldn't have gone as well. I was lucky that I was picking the team.
The most self-effacing expert we've ever seen. We love you, Finchy. We love you too, Pup. We'll see you again next Wednesday and Around the Wicket.
Thanks, guys.
Don't go anywhere because these two are going to talk more about that white ball series and the T20s coming up next. Tough going for standing captain Josh Inglis and the Aussies, beaten on home soil by Pakistan 2-1, all out for 163 and 140. Aaron Finch, Callum Ferguson alongside me. Finchy, was this as bad as you've seen Australia bat across a series?
Oh, they weren't at their absolute best, you can say that. I mean, for no player to get 50 in 3 games on what looked like pretty decent batting wickets. That would be a little bit of a concern, but I think the mode's a dismissal. There wasn't a huge amount of learnings from game to game. So that was the most concerning thing for me.
What did you feel watching on as former Aussie captain?
Oh, I think it's a good mix of identifying who's next in line and getting enough experience in players that haven't had a huge amount of international games under their belt. And I think that's really important. It's a really important step to take for Australia, because the last thing that you want to do is get to the Champions Trophy and have just played the same 12 or 13 players for the last 12 months, and then you'd learn nothing new about the players that are next in. 1 or 2 injuries, and that can derail a whole campaign of an ICC event. So a really necessary step to take to make sure that Jake and Matt Short at the top of the order are getting some game time, and Aaron Hardy, he has an opportunity to play a couple of games in a row. Important, but still disappointing, no doubt.
The classic, you learn more from the losses than you do from the wins. Silver lining there from Aaron Finch. Did you feel for Josh Inglis? He's made standing captain, added to the test squad as well. There's a lot going on in his world, and that was a pretty disastrous couple of one-dayers.
Yeah, look, it was brutal. There's no doubt about it. The mode of the losses was really hard to take for everyone in the Australian cricket fraternity, no doubt. But I think Finch's points about the learnings is really important, and also opportunity. We haven't gone into major tournaments necessarily in the last 5-6 years in unbelievable form. What we have done, though, is we've given opportunity to players in the run-in, which has then enabled us to know who's suited to bat where, and then also give these guys some learnings that they can go into their next attempt at the top of the order, if required, with some real success and real focus and understanding of their own game.
Jason Gillespie, coach of Pakistan at the moment, came out and said, I pretty much saw no promotion of our one-day series. Do you think that Cricket Australia, Finchy, has lost a little bit of ground with the public in November?
Yeah, unless you were actively looking for it, there wasn't a huge amount of promotion around it either. So that's really disappointing, because I think that this time of the year, you're leading into the huge summer of India, and you've got Pakistan here just before. They're like, that's a huge battle, and that's a huge clash, and two teams that have got such a rich rivalry against Australia that are coming, and all we seem to have heard about is the test series coming up. So for me, it's a little bit disappointing. Yeah,
look, it can be a real concern when you don't have these fixtures on free-to-air television. You miss out on a lot of free advertisements, but I think that's where Cricket Australia then need to pick up the slack, understand that, and then really get hot on the press, get into the papers, get onto the internet and really promote it hard, so that the build-up into the Australian Test summer is as large as it can be. And I love that we've got white ball fixtures running into the Test series, because I think it's a nice run-in if we promote it and people know it's on.
When you add it all together, the women played the World Cup, then the WBBL, then Australia v Pakistan. Cricket should have been absolutely everywhere before the Border Gavaskar Trophy. It was a huge lead-in to a summer. One-day cricket, though, how do we fix it in between World Cups? We were there last year at the One Day World Cup. It was a huge success. It was wonderful. In between those 4 years, though, there are problems.
Yeah, at times. I think it's a little bit like Test cricket, and the result of that was to bring in the World Test Championship, so that every Test match has a real, I guess, carrot at the end of it, that you can't just rest players from a Test match because you want to make the World Test Championship. So for one-day cricket, maybe it's playing slightly less. Maybe it's having standalone series where you get a try series like it used to be, when there used to be 2 teams would come out at the end of the summer, and you've got India playing against Sri Lanka and Australia, and you make a massive carnival type out of it, and it all ends up in a big final or a best of 3 final, which there used to be at times. So maybe it's a way of doing it to get more eyeballs on it and get more teams competing all at once on a similar playing field.
The T20s are coming up. Jake Fraser-McGurk didn't have the greatest one-day series, hit back at criticism from Ian Healy as well. What do you want to see from him, Ferg, to make sure he's getting the best out of his natural talent in his game?
Yeah, I just want to keep seeing him enjoy his cricket and also learning from each dismissal and trying to assess the conditions as quickly as possible when he gets to the crease. It felt like he was walking out there. He left a few in the second and third game early on, but...
Not many.
Not many. You're right. So what I want to see is him get out there, keep looking to attack, but assess the conditions and try and work out as quickly as possible where my highest percentage boundary options are early until I'm set at the crease. Because I do feel like if we keep beating him over the head with his dismissals, he's just going to go into his shell. We've got to keep encouraging him to play his shots. Let's just make sure we're taking the highest percentage ones.
What do you think, Finchy?
Let him go. He's only young. He's still learning his game. He's new to international cricket. It's a totally different game to domestic cricket. Whether it's IPL, whether it's Australian domestic cricket, whether you're playing county cricket, it is a totally different level. You're coming up against a very, very good and experienced Pakistan attack too. So just let him go. He'll work it out. He's got enough talent. If you put him at the top for long enough, you build a team around players like that. Glenn Maxwell is inconsistent at times, but you turn on the TV to watch him because he wins games by himself. So you put in place around him players that you know are going to be consistent. If you've got a high risk, high reward player at the top, well, you have Steve Smith at 3 because you know the days that it doesn't come off, he'll pick up the pieces. He always does. He's a great. But when Jake comes off, you're going to win the game. So it's just players like that. It's balancing the team. And I think Australia are doing that nicely at the moment. And there's times when he'll come under pressure, but there's also times when you get the best of it and you just win. So easy.
Can I just say, you are on fire today. Humour,
Yes.
passionate defences. I can feel the energy from you, Finchy.
Thanks.
10 out of 10. Don't go anywhere. The short stuff is coming up next. Time to take on the short stuff. The IPL mega auction just around the corner. How important can a big knock be now in a T20?
I think it used to be really important, but I don't think it matters anymore. Teams are very well prepared. They understand. They use their analytics to their advantage. No.
Jimmy Anderson has nominated himself for the IPL. Will he get picked up?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's played for over a decade in T20 cricket. So I think that's a hard no for me.
Dizzy, will he become the full-time coach of Pakistan? Can they convince him?
Oh, they probably need to give him back a little bit of selection power around the group because he did say that he's not a coach anymore. He's just a match day manager. So there'll be a hard sell.
Is the shot clock here to stay, Ferg?
Yes.
Do you like it, Finchy?
I didn't even know it was on.
Expert analysis from Aaron Finch. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be back next week. This has been Around the Wicket.